Hey, so I did my friend's makeup for her wedding, and if you want to know how I did it, keep on watching. This is the part of the tutorial where I talk about her history and how much I love her, and if you're not interested in that part, I suggest you skip to the 2-minute mark. And that's where the tutorial will begin. So the last time I did Elaine's makeup was 14 years ago for prom. And this is what it looked like. That was 2011, guys. Don't judge me. So when she asked me to do her wedding makeup, we had to do a trial. I know what you're gonna say, and I didn't like it either. But there was some things that I learned from this. Number one, this color combo needed to go in the trash and never see the light of day again. Number two, her eyebrows did need some work. And number three, we needed to get her started on a skincare regimen. She takes care of everybody else but herself, and this was for her wedding day, and there's no compromising that. This was her second makeup trial. We mapped out her eyebrows. They fit a little better on her face, and I definitely tuned up the glam. Unfortunately, she did not like that, so we had to go for a third trial. This was the third makeup trial, and we both absolutely loved it, but I still had this feeling that I could do better with the eyebrows. And I don't mean to toot my own horn, but boy did I come through. This was the fourth trial, and I feel like I absolutely nailed it. She looks stunning. But I did want to do another trial like a week before the wedding, just to make sure that all the products hold up against the sun, the rain, the wind, the anxiety, the stress, the sweat, all the things that come with a wedding. This was the fifth and final makeup trial, and I basically just did this, and then we texted each other all day so she could update me on how her makeup was holding up. It turns out that it held up pretty well, so I was ready for game day. On game day, as you can see, I started off with cleaning the eyebrows. Then I prepped her face with this fresh Rose Deep Hydration facial toner. I do believe that this toner has magical powers, and as you could see, she really enjoyed it too. Then I went in with a serum, and my purpose for doing this is just adding that extra hydration to the skin. She does have drier skin, so any type of extra hydration we could get in there, we're gonna do it. So now I'm applying a moisturizer, and my main goal as I do this is I want to drain the lymph nodes from her face and her chest, and she really enjoys it, and we just have this little I'm sorry, I'm back. Doing voiceovers is incredibly difficult for me. Back to what I was saying before, I was draining her lymph nodes from her face, her neck, and her chest, and it really does make a difference in the final look. I'm applying this eyeshadow primer onto her eyelids because I want this eyeshadow to last all day, through the humidity, through the sweat, and I don't want it to budge. I custom mixed a concealer color for her, and I'm applying that on top of her eyelids, so then I have a clean slate to start with the eyeshadow. And it's really important that I blend this out really well so there's no patches or creases, because if I have any of that going on, it's going to show under the eyeshadow. I created this look using one palette, the Makeup by Mario The Originals palette, and I'm going in with this first color just to wash the eyelid, and what this is going to do is create a very nice base for me to blend in my other eyeshadows that I'm going to be applying on top of it. This is the eyeshadow that I picked for her transition shade, and I'm just going to apply that across her brow bone, and I'm going to blend it out extremely well. I went in with this darker shade, and I kept it focused on the outer corners of her eyes, and the purpose of that is I'm trying to achieve a lifted eye, a more elongated eye, and a contoured eye, and I'm going to marry that into the rest of the contour of her face when I get to that point. That pun was not intended, but I'm gonna keep it. This is the darkest and the final color I'm gonna be using for this eyeshadow look. And as you can see, I'm going in with really small brushes and applying it exactly to where I need it to be, the outer part of her upper lash line, and I'm going to drag it into the wing. And after I place it, I'm going to smoke it out with a blending brush, and I'm going to keep applying more layers and keep blending it out, and that's just going to add that depth that we all see in like a super blended eyeshadow look. And this is where it takes the longest in bridal makeup, is when you blend everything out and you blend in layers. So you apply the layers, then you blend, you apply the layers, and then you blend until you feel like you've achieved what you're going for. I went in with some micellar water on a Q-tip and I cleaned up my angles. I created a custom shade of foundation for her, and it wasn't to match her face or her chest, it was to match her arms. I applied it in very thin layers. I wasn't trying to hide her skin, I was just trying to shade match. This also takes a very long time because you have to build the layers upon each other and blend them out simultaneously. Then I created a custom shade for her concealer and I applied it under her eyes. And I also used the residual concealer to kind of brighten up around her eyebrows, the sides of her nose, and her mouth. I am now applying my cream contour, and I start from the top. I do the forehead, which includes the top of the forehead and the temples. Then I move on to the nose and the cheekbones, and then I sculpt her jawline, and then I move on to the breasts and the clavicle. So now I'm just blending everything out, and what I'm trying to achieve with this blend is I'm trying to bring the light to focus on the center of her face. So I'm trying to bring the light to like the center of her forehead, to the bridge of her nose, to the high points of her cheeks, and to her mouth area. And I can achieve that by sculpting everything else around it. So I can sculpt around the forehead, I can sculpt around the nose, I can sculpt those cheekbones to be super high, I can chisel that jawline, I could chisel those clavicles, and I can make those boobs look juicy. Don't we all want juicy boobs? Well, we would all want juicy boobs if they didn't come with back pain, right? Anyways, the way I blend out the contour of the nose is I go in with the concealer brush and I just soften out the line. And that usually creates a very nice nose contour. I'm taking the semi-matte coral cream blush from my Makeup Forever Blush and Glow palette. I'm applying it in very thin layers so it has a seamless transition between the concealer and the contour. I'm applying it all the way from the apples of her cheeks to her temples. And this is when I get really excited about the makeup because it starts coming alive. She just looks absolutely stunning. I think at this point I just kept telling her how pretty she looked. I still felt that the boobs didn't look juicy enough, even though she's got the biggest jugs I've ever seen. So I went ahead and I took the lightest color in my cream contour palette and I shaped them out again, and then I blended it, and then I think I was satisfied with how voluptuous the jugs looked. The boobs were boobing. And then I went ahead and I did the same exact thing to the clavicles. I applied these liquid bronzing drops to add some warmth and to add some glow to the overall look. And I basically just kind of blended it into the contour a little bit, and then everywhere the sun would hit to give it that glowy bronzed goddess appeal. I'm cleaning up the concealer that sort of settled into the fine lines under her eyes to prepare them for the setting powder I'm going to be applying. I'm not applying much, just enough so that the concealer doesn't move and settle back into the lines. And I'm also dusting that setting powder all over her face, very lightly, like a whisper of a powder. And now I'm applying the powder blush, and I'm applying it to everywhere I applied the cream blush, because layers are beautiful. We're adding depth, we're adding color, we're adding flavor, we're adding pizzazz. Now it's time to melt the powders with the creams, and I'm going in with the setting spray and making sure I don't miss any spots, and then immediately hitting her with the fan. I went in with this Anastasia Beverly Hills Dip Brow Pomade in dark brown, and with a very fine artist brush, I sparsely created some hairs in her eyebrows. Now, she has very beautiful eyebrows. She didn't need much, so it was kind of here, kind of there, but mostly it was her eyebrows that we were working with. I went in with a brow gel to lift her eyebrows, brush them out, and make sure that they don't budge throughout the day. I took the same eyeshadows that I applied to the top of the eye with a smaller brush and applied them to the bottom of the eye close to the lash line to give a soft and more diffused look, and also to prevent the look from looking too top heavy. Next, I applied some mascara, and then I applied some lash clusters because I learned from the first time I am not doing lash bands on anyone ever again. I'm sorry I don't have a better angle as well, because when I was doing the other eye, I was in front of the camera the whole time. Take my word for it, they came out really nice. So we decided to go in with this NYX lip pencil in the shade Nude Beige. I used it to line her lips, and then I just topped the lips off with a glossy gloss. And then I locked everything in with this finishing spray, and her makeup was secure. This was the final look, and we were both super happy with it. And then I got some janky videos from her wedding. And I gotta say, I could not stop staring at her all night. She looked so beautiful. What an honor to be such a big part of someone's probably most important day of their life. They're so cute. I can't. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I love you. Bye bye.